You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start with the Dodgers basically putting together the Death Star. They're ready to destroy Alderaan, rule the Empire, whatever Star Wars reference you want to use, because that's what the Dodgers have done. Signing Trevor Bauer and pairing him with Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, David Price, Julio Urias, and Tony Gonsolin was bad enough. Dustin May, too. But there was another element to the Bauer signing. It meant they probably weren't going to bring back Justin Turner. At least that's what a lot of people thought. They were going to roll with either Edwin Rios or Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux, Matt Beattie, whoever. No, those people were wrong. I was wrong. Justin Turner's back. He re-signed with the Dodgers, 2 years, $34 million. And the Dodgers also avoided arbitration with Austin Barnes. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth $4.3 million. But back to Turner. This Dodgers lineup is now probably the best in baseball, if it wasn't already. It seemed like the Dodgers' plan was going to be for Gavin Lux to be the second baseman and Chris Taylor would slide over to third. Maybe Edwin Rios would be the third baseman. Maybe Matt Beattie would be the third baseman. Maybe Taylor would play second. It was up in the air, but I did think Lux and Taylor would be in the starting lineup. Now with Turner coming back, you can put Chris Taylor at second base. Either him or Gavin Lux should be the Dodgers' opening day second baseman. It'll probably be Taylor, though. Think about this starting lineup for a minute. Will Smith, Max Muncy, Chris Taylor, Corey Seager, Justin Turner, A.J. Pollock, Cody Bellinger, and Mookie Betts. How do you beat that team? Bringing Turner back is nothing short of incredible. This guy has been insane since he went to the Dodgers. It was one of Sandy Alderson's biggest mistakes as Mets GM, letting Turner get away. In 2019, he hit .290 with 27 homers and 67 RBIs. Last year, he hit .307 with 4 homers and 23 RBIs. He's been a great playoff performer for the Dodgers. People forget this. In 2017, he won NLCS MVP. And you're bringing him back at a very reasonable rate, $17 million per year, is very fair for him. 2 years is the right contract length for him. If the Dodgers are okay with blowing past the luxury tax, then yeah, bring him back. It's a no-brainer. I mean, I'll say this, it wouldn't surprise me if the Dodgers won 110 games. I think they're that talented. They have the depth to survive injuries. They have the hitting. They have the pitching. They have a great manager in Dave Roberts. Someone who's made 3 World Series in the past 4 years. I mean, here's the thing about Roberts that everyone forgets. Every year he's been Dodgers manager, the Dodgers have won the NL West. Was it disappointing that he couldn't get over the hump and win a World Series before last year? Yes. But the numbers don't lie. He is a great manager. One of the best managers in baseball. This may be the best roster he's ever had. And Austin Barnes is going to play a significant role on this roster. I'll bet you forgot about him. No. You shouldn't forget about him. Even though he's probably going to be the backup catcher next year, he's still going to get into a bunch of games. The backup catcher plays, and he plays a lot. And Barnes is a solid backup. All glove, no hit. Last year he had 244 with 1 homer and 9 RBIs. In 2019, he hit 203 with 5 homers and 25 RBIs. You don't want him starting a lot. And it's something that he's done before with the Dodgers. It's been a big black hole for him for a while. But now that he's going to be a backup catcher, something that he should have always been, it makes the Dodgers that much better. It's okay to have an all-glove, no-bat backup catcher. Especially when the 7 guys hitting in front of him are all all-stars. Everyone except Chris Taylor that's going to hit in front of Austin Barnes has made an all-star team. You can have a weak link in that lineup. That's perfectly fine. The Dodgers are stacked. I don't see how they don't repeat as World Series champions. For their sake, it'd be nice to see them win a World Series without an asterisk on it. I've said this before. The true World Series this year is going to be the NLCS, because there's no team in the American League. The Yankees, the Blue Jays, the White Sox, the Twins, the Athletics, the Astros, the Angels, whoever. There's no team in the American League that measures up to the Dodgers and Padres. That's what I think we're looking at. I think we're looking at a Dodgers-Padres NLCS. And that would be an absolutely incredible series. But that hasn't stopped other teams from trying. I commend them for it. It's the right thing. There's an argument in sports that I hate. It says, if you know you can't beat Team X, don't even try. Just throw the season away. I hate that argument. For starters, you don't know if you can beat Team X. As much as I'm praising the Dodgers, we still have 162 games left to play. A million things can happen. Maybe the Dodgers get upset in the playoffs. We still have to play the games. And this isn't just a baseball argument. It transcends all sports. I mean, look, I'm a Jets fan. I've heard the argument before. You can't beat Tom Brady. You have no chance to beat the Patriots. Why are you guys even signing free agents? Why are you guys making these trades? It's not going to matter. Guess what? The last victory the Jets had in the playoffs was against the Patriots, 28-21. So the idea that you can just throw away seasons before they happen is nonsense. I hate it. Once the season unfolds and you see that your team isn't going to do anything, fine. Blow things up. No one has a problem with that. But we still got some games to play. A million things can happen. And the Cubs realized that, so they brought back an old friend, Jake Arrieta, on a 1-year deal worth $6 million. This makes perfect sense for the Cubs. They never wanted to lose Arrieta in the first place. The Phillies just outbid them. I mean, it kind of worked out in the Cubs' favor in a weird way, because Arrieta only had one good year with the Phillies. And even then, that 1 year wasn't anything earth-shattering. Arrieta went 10-11 with a 3.96 ERA. The guy made $30 million that year. For $30 million, you better have a winning record. Then every year he got worse with the Phillies. 2019, 8-8, 4.64 ERA. Last year, 4-4 with a 5.08 ERA. Jake Arrieta never pitched in the playoffs for the Phillies. In fact, they didn't come anywhere near the playoffs with Arrieta. It does make sense for the Cubs to bring him back. $6 million is okay for a guy who's had success with your team before. I mean, I always liked Arrieta. I saw him with the Orioles a lot when he was first coming up. He had potential. He had moments where he looked really good. He just wasn't able to put it all together. Then he went to the Cubs and was lethal. Looked like the second coming of Fergie Jenkins. So I like this contract. It makes sense for both sides. The only thing I'll say is this Cubs rotation is a big question mark. Trevor Williams isn't that great. Kyle Hendricks is really good. Not knocking him. Zach Davies is really good. The Cubs did well to get him back in the Darvish trade. But Alec Mills isn't a world beater. And God only knows what you're going to get from Adbert Alzolay. This is a Cubs rotation that is really, really shaky. There's no doubt in my mind that the Cubs are going to be on the outside looking in come October. They're not better than the Cardinals. Not even close. Speaking of pitchers returning home, James Paxton is returning to the team that drafted him. He signed a 1-year deal worth $8.5 million to go back to the Mariners. Let me start by giving you an overview of James Paxton's career. There's no question that Paxton is a talented pitcher. Was really good with the Mariners. Went 41-26 for him with a 3.42 ERA. He never had a year with the Mariners where he finished with a 4 ERA. The thing is, though, he just couldn't stay healthy. His career high for innings pitched in a season is 160 and a third. He has never started 30 games. He's a talented player. He's a lefty. He has moments where you think that he can be a stalwart in your rotation for years to come. But then there are the other times. The times where he looks absolutely dreadful. There was a stretch of games in 2019 when Paxton was a Yankee where he was guaranteed to give up at least 1 run in the first inning. Didn't matter what the situation was. Paxton was always going to put the Yankees in a hole. I mean, people said to me, Paxton's just A.J. Burnett. He can't pitch in New York. He's terrible. Get rid of him, blah, blah, blah. He's not. When Paxton was a Yankee, he was just a much better Michael Pineda. Pineda, when he was a Yankee, he had moments where he looked great, but then there were those moments that made you want to turn off the TV. Paxton was the same way. He was just a little more consistent. I mean, look, I remember Game 5 of the 19 ALCS against the Astros. I was there. Paxton gave up a run in the first inning. Okay, that's not good. You're getting flashbacks. But then he settled down. The guy pitched 6 innings of 1-run ball. He looked really good. The Yankees won that game. They forced a Game 6. James Paxton is a talented pitcher. He just can't stay healthy. And he's gonna have starts where you just shake your head in disbelief. Paxton made 5 starts for the Yankees this past year. He went 1-1 with a 6.64 ERA. In 2019, he went 15-6 with a 3.82 ERA. Let me tell you, you could go to Yankee Stadium on opening day. There are going to be 5,000 fans allowed in. Ask all of them, what do you think James Paxton's record was in 2019? None of them will say 15-6 with a 3.82 ERA. But it does make sense for the Mariners to bring him in. You take a look at that rotation now. Marco Gonzalez is really good, wanting him on the Yankees. Justin Dunn has a ton of talent. I hope he turns into a great pitcher. I want Dunn to be the next Randy Johnson because he was traded to the Mariners by the Mets in the Diaz and Cano trade. But the Yankees have a guy like that who they traded to the Mariners and looks like he's going to be a great pitcher. Justice Sheffield. You know who Sheffield was traded for? James Paxton. So in exchange for 34 starts from James Paxton, the Yankees gave up Justice Sheffield and Eric Swanson and Dom Thompson-Williams. But the main prize was Sheffield. Not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I found out about the trade as I was driving home. One of my friends, Sam, texted me. He sent me a Twitter link. I opened it at a red light. It said that Paxton was going to the Yankees for Justice Sheffield. Eric Swanson, and Dom Thompson-Williams. When I got home, I remember this. I tweeted something. I gave the Mariners a 60-40 edge. I liked that the Yankees got Paxton. I understood trading for him. It made sense. But giving up Justice Sheffield, a very highly thought of prospect, I know the Yankees had soured on him. I never understood why. There was no good reason for that. Sheffield had talent. He was just never given a chance to show what he could do with the Yankees. My whole thing was, if you're going to trade Sheffield, which I wasn't opposed to, if the organization had soured on you, fine. They know more about you than I do. But trade him for someone better than James Paxton. Trade him for someone who has shown that he can stay healthy. I wanted it to work, obviously. I just had a feeling that it wouldn't. So now the Mariners get to put Sheffield in a rotation with Paxton. And Yusei Kikuchi, who the Mariners are kind of stuck with. It doesn't seem like he's gonna turn into anything special in Major League Baseball. But again, the Mariners are stuck with him. He's on a huge contract. This move makes sense for the Mariners. I know why they did it. $8.5 million, maybe a little too much for my blood, but I can't begrudge it too much. And I'll say this. If Paxton can stay healthy, we know Gonzalez is good, we know Dunn is good, and we know Sheffield is good. If Paxton can stay healthy, the Mariners could make some noise in the AL West. That's a very wide open division. People are writing off the Mariners too much. They're saying they're one of the worst teams in baseball. They're not. Last year, they finished just 2 games out of a playoff spot. Their lineup isn't that good, but their pitching staff can be. I'm not saying the Mariners are going to win the division or anything, but I do think they'll make some noise. Speaking of the Yankees, it seems like they're going to make a move of their own. According to John Heyman of the MLB Network, the Yankees appear to be moving toward a deal with an old friend, Justin Wilson. It would be absolutely fantastic for the Yankees to bring back Justin Wilson. I liked Wilson in his 1 year with the Yankees. He went 5-0 with a 3.1 ERA. Then he was traded for the Tigers for Chad Green and Luis Sessa. Now that trade took a while to bear fruit. 2016 was rough for Green and Sessa. Then in 2017, Green turned it around. And in 2019, Sessa turned it around. So in the end, it worked out for the Yankees, but I did like Justin Wilson. I thought he had talent. In 2019, for the Mets, he went 4-2 with a 2.54 ERA. Last year, 2-1 with a 3.66 ERA. He's a very good lefty reliever. And this is a Yankees bullpen that could stand to add a low-leverage lefty. Yes, they have Chapman and Britton, but those guys are locked in to the 8th and 9th innings. The Yankees were vulnerable to a big lefty coming up in the 6th inning or early in the 7th inning. Because the only thing they could do would be to put Britton in have him pitch the 7th. You're not going to put him in the 6th. You're screwed in the 6th. And then the 8th inning, Chad Green. I like Green. He's not an 8th inning guy. Bringing in Wilson makes a ton of sense. He can get those big lefties out earlier in games. And I'll say this. You've got a bullpen of Chapman, Britton, Green, Wilson, Darren O'Day, Luis Sessa, and Jonathan Loaisiga. That's pretty darn good. That's a pretty good bullpen. Let's just hope Chapman can pitch in the playoffs. I don't want to see him smiling unless he's celebrating for closing out a big game. I mean, I understand that smile is an involuntary reflex. It's more him just laughing, or he's in such disbelief that he can't help but smile. I mean, some people do that. I do that sometimes. It's not a happy smile. It's a smile of disbelief. It's tough to see, don't get me wrong, but it's not like Chapman's happy that he gave up a big home run. Jose Altuve and Michael Brasso. Two of my least favorite players in baseball. Speaking of Mike Brasso, he does have a couple new teammates. The Rays signed Rich Hill to a 1-year deal worth $2.5 million and Colin McHugh to a 1-year deal worth $1.8 million. And these are good moves for the Rays. They did need to flesh out their rotation. And Hill can still get the job done. Last year for the Twins, he went 2-2 with a 3.03 ERA. When he pitches for the Rays, he will have pitched for every AL East team except the Blue Jays. And Colin McHugh in 2019 for the Astros went 4-5 with a 4.7 ERA. He didn't pitch in 2020. He had an elbow injury that lingered. He was with the Red Sox, and they said, don't worry about it, we're not going to throw you out there. So it does make sense for the Rays to add these guys. You can never have too much pitching, especially after you trade Blake Snell. But here's the thing. None of the guys that the Rays brought in are anywhere close to Snell in terms of talent. Chris Archer, Michael Wacha, Luis Patino, Hill, McHugh. Come on! I don't understand how people can look at the Rays and think this team is making the playoffs. They're not. Does it make sense for the Rays to bring these guys in? The answer is yes. Again, you can never have too much pitching. But what's their rotation? You've got Glasnow, Yarborough, Archer, Hill, and Patino, maybe? But then what do you do with McHugh? Are you going to put McHugh in the pen? What are you doing with Josh Fleming? What are you doing with Wacha? The Rays decided to replace Blake Snell by signing a bunch of schmagegi pitchers, all due respect to Hill and McHugh. They're not bad players. But they're not Blake Snell. They're not Charlie Morton. The Rays are going with quantity over quality. That's not going to work. Look, in a bubble, these moves make sense. I can't begrudge the Rays for them. But it's just infuriating to see a team, even if it's going to benefit my team, that was so successful, tear everything down for no good reason. I understand this is the Rays' MO, but eventually it's gonna catch up to them. There's no way you can keep getting lucky. I think this is the year their luck runs out. Moving on now to the Athletics, signing Sergio Romo to a 1-year deal worth $2.25 million, and re-signing Yusmeiro Petit to a 1-year deal worth $2.55 million. And you may do a double take when you hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. These may be two of the most impactful moves of the offseason. The reason the Athletics won the AL West last year was because of their bullpen. They had 6 qualified relievers finish with an ERA under 4. Their starting pitching really wasn't that good. And their lineup was dreadful. It was their bullpen that was winning them games. And until recently, it seemed like the Athletics had forgotten that. They let Liam Hendriks walk in free agency. They did the same thing with Joakim Soria. It didn't seem like they were going to re-sign Yusmeiro Petit. Now, very quickly, they've made moves to solidify their bullpen. Obviously, last week, they traded for Adam Kolarek, and they just brought in Sergio Romo, who is a proven winner in this league, and they brought back Yusmeiro Petit. Think about this bullpen for a minute. Jake Diekman, J.B. Wendelken, Yusmeiro Petit, Lou Trevino, Adam Kolarek, Sergio Romo, Jordan Weems, and Birch Smith. That may be the best bullpen in baseball. I would really need to think about it. But it's up there. I can promise you that. The Athletics were able to get 2 really good relievers for under $3 million a year. Last year for the Twins, Romo went 1-2 with a 4.05 ERA. Last year, he went 3-4 with a 4.14 ERA. This guy has won 3 World Series, and Petit was invaluable to the Athletics last year. He went 2-1 with a 1.66 ERA. The year before, he went 5-3 with a 2.71 ERA. He won a World Series in 2014 with Romo. The AL West is wide open. I know I said that before, I'll say it again. But it's very possible that the Athletics could repeat. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Moving on now to the Diamondbacks, signing Asdrubal Cabrera to a 1-year deal worth $1.75 million. And this is a really good move for the Diamondbacks. Cabrera is a very talented player. He's been underrated all throughout his career. In 2019, he had 260 with 18 homers and 91 RBIs. Last year, he had 242 with 8 homers and 31 RBIs for the Nationals. I understand that the average slipped. But again, 60 games. Cabrera has a proven track record of success. I have no doubt in his ability to be a quality infielder again. And the Diamondbacks did have a hole at third base. Eduardo Escobar was dreadful last year for him. He hit .212 with 4 homers and 20 RBIs. In a perfect world, Escobar is a utility infielder. I know in 2019 he had a fantastic year. Hit .269 with 35 homers and 118 RBIs, and he led the majors in triples with 10. But look at what he did with the Twins. It's more than likely that 2019 was just an aberration. I'm telling you, Escobar is better off as a utility infielder. Cabrera can play third. He did it a lot last year. Didn't make an error. This is a good move for the Diamondbacks. It makes a ton of sense. Really, really good job by them. Alright, I'll close out the baseball with a trade. Specifically, the Dodgers trading Dylan Floro to the Marlins for Alex Vesia and Kyle Hurt. And this is an absolute steal for the Marlins. Dylan Floro is a really good reliever. In 2019, he went 5-3 with a 4.24 ERA. Last year, he went 3-0 with a 2.59 ERA. Not great in the playoffs, but the Marlins don't need to worry about that. They were a beneficiary of the 60-game season. The Marlins bullpen is unsettled, to put it lightly. They've got some good relievers, but not great relievers. Anthony Bass, Yimi Garcia, James Hoyt, and Richard Blyer. Those guys aren't bad, but they're not great. Adding Floro to that mix does help stabilize things. And they gave up nobodies to get him. Vesia and Hurt are just relievers. That's all they are. They have no potential whatsoever. You never want to trade for prospects that you know are going to be relievers. Trade for starters, and then if you need to, turn them into relievers. Granted, this move doesn't move the needle a lot for the Marlins, but they got a really good reliever for peanuts. They easily win this trade. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Valk talk. And I'll start with a report from Ed Boschette of The Athletic, who believes that the Steelers are ready to move on from Alejandro Villanueva. I know that the Steelers are in cap hell. According to overthecap.com, they're $30 million over the cap. They've got to make some tough decisions. No pun intended, by the way. But there had to be a better way to do it than cutting Alejandro Villanueva. This guy is one of the best left tackles in the game. Last year, according to Pro Football Focus, he had a 74.6 overall grade. There would be a bunch of teams that would line up to sign this guy. Great pass blocker, incredibly tough. I can't endorse the Steelers moving on from Villanueva. They may not have had a choice, but this is a tough pill to swallow. and you combine that with Maurkice Pouncey announcing his retirement, along with his brother Mike Pouncey, Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a tough time next year. I think the Steelers' window to win with Big Ben has closed. One of the things that made him so great was the offensive line in front of him. They gave him all the time in the world to do what he needed to do. I don't see him having that luxury next year. I'll stay in Pennsylvania for the next story. According to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Zach Ertz is going to be traded or released in the near future. See, this I can get behind. Ertz missed 5 games last year due to an injury, and when he played, he was dreadful. Only had 36 catches for 335 yards and 1 touchdown. Also, the Eagles have a younger and better tight end in Dallas Goedert. It makes sense to move on from Ertz. As for the other Eagle whose name ends in TZ, Carson Wentz, look, I know they're gonna trade him. There's like a 92.5% chance that's gonna happen, in my estimation. But I'm not sure how I feel about it. You bring in Nick Sirianni, who comes from Frank Reich's coaching tree, who led Wentz to an almost MVP season, and now you're going to move on from Wentz? I thought the point of hiring Sirianni was because you knew you had to make it work with Wentz. That is one dysfunctional team, boyo. I know it may be too early to say this, but I don't see the Eagles doing anything crazy to significantly improve their roster. Washington's just going to get better and better. The Cowboys are going to get better and better with Prescott coming back. The Giants are better than the Eagles. I don't see Daniel Jones taking them very far, but the offseason is still young. A million things can happen. I think the Eagles are going to finish in last place in the NFC East. Roseman will be gone, Wentz will be gone, Hurts will be gone, and Sirianni will be one and done. The last story to talk about is something that Vic Taffer of The Athletic wrote. LaMarcus Joyner is expected to be cut by the Raiders. And this is a no-brainer. The Raiders are in cap hell. Again, no pun intended, but according to overthecap.com, they're $18 million over the salary cap. By cutting Williams and Joyner, they're under the salary cap. And they may trade Marcus Mariota so they open up a little more breathing room. And Joyner isn't that good. Look, Joyner had a few good years for the Rams. Made a Super Bowl with them. But once he went to the Raiders, he fell off a cliff. In 2019, according to Pro Football Focus, he had a 47.5 overall grade. Last year, it only slightly improved, 53.8 overall. He's 30 years old. He's going to count for $11.2 million on the salary cap. This is an easy decision. It's the right decision. And I'd be surprised if Joyner landed on his feet, to tell you the truth. The only team that I could see signing him would be the Rams. because John Johnson is a free agent. But even then, the Rams are in cap hell. Even once the Stafford for Goff trade gets finalized, they'll still be in cap hell. I think Joyner may just retire, to tell you the truth. Brooklyn Nets Show comes your way tonight. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying Happy President's Day.